I don't think there's anybody else. There's no one else who indicated they were going to join for sure.
No, and if anybody decides to join through via Zoom, I just admit them in.
No, I meant from our PNZ group.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Then why don't we, I'll call the meeting to order at this time. And this is a special hybrid meeting of the Town of Bethany Planning and Zoning Commission. In attendance, I'll go over the attendance right now. We have Hiram Peck, Town Planner, Lena Frazier, Town Zoning Enforcement Officer, Nancy Held Sheehy, P&Z Chairman, Alex Hutchinson, P&Z Vice Chair, member Donna Shea, and alternate member Brad Gupta. So this meeting was a request from the Planning and Zoning Group to allow Hiram to draft a resolution for application, something that we can make a motion for, relative to application 24012, applicant owner Joe Naples, CFC Park, 667 Amity Road, B&I zone. Site plan approval for various improvements, new added parking, drainage, revision of zoning permit dated June 29th, 2016 for modification of hours of operations and addition of field lights. So this was a request to draft a motion based on the application, two public hearing meetings, and discussion, deliberation of the board, the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I imagine it's probably best, Hiram and Lena, let me know, should we read the draft resolution, or Hiram, or one of us?
Sure.
Do you want to give some also, since this is a special meeting as well, do you want to give any guidance, want to say anything in the beginning, Hiram?
Yeah, just in the beginning, the members that are here are all familiar with the record and are familiar with the occurrences at the public hearing. So that's important for folks to state. The resolution that you have in front of you is for your consideration. You can accept it, you can reject it, you can modify it if you like. The only thing I would like to make a point is that the only information that the commission is allowed to consider is information that was received during the public hearing prior to its close. And so that's important for folks to understand. Other than that, Madam Chairman, if you want me to go through it, I'm happy to do that.
For those members here, I've read through it. Would that be helpful to anybody else on the commission?
I'd read it, so I'm comfortable with it.
I've read through it. I don't see the need for Hiram to read it, at least for my benefit. I have some questions, some targeted questions about it, but I don't think Hiram needs to read the entire thing.
Donna, have you had an opportunity to read it? Do you need
Yes,
anything?
I did.
Okay, all right, great.
No,
I guess Brad, if you have any questions.
Yeah, so one concern that we discussed last week was the ability of the commission to enforce compliance with this approval, should it be approved. Can you just talk briefly about what you've included in the draft motion that would allow the commission to enforce compliance if there was lighting installed or being used that didn't comply with what we approved?
Sure, I'd be glad to. There are a couple of things in the draft resolution that ensure compliance. One is that, and I specifically asked the applicant during the hearing whether they would be willing to provide a bond for the improvements that were shown on the plan, and they agreed to do that. So the last item on the draft resolution specifically talks about requiring a proper bond. Any item, whether it's landscaping, drainage, stormwater, or anything else, including the lights, if not installed in accordance with the plan, then the bond would be held until those were made compliant. In addition to that, Brad, I think that there was a lot of concern discussed about the lighting and the trespass, given the fact that the regulations say that there will be no trespass off the property. The applicant asked verbally for a waiver of that requirement of the regulations. In order to ensure that that is made compliant with the plans that were submitted, and those were the revised lighting plans that were submitted from Geosport, what I strongly recommend, is that the field lighting, once it's installed, prior to its use for any sporting facilities, be tested by a qualified lighting engineer, and that information be then forwarded to the commission to ensure that it complies with that plan. So those are the two major things I think that talk about compliance, and I think they're both very important.
Thank you for explaining that. When you say that it would have to be verified by a qualified lighting engineer, is that somebody that the commission would select, or is that somebody that the applicant would be free to select? And could the applicant's engineer, Mr. Garcia, be the person that approves that? Would he have the qualifications to do that, or would he be allowed to do that under the way that it's written now?
I recommend that it be a qualified lighting engineer. Typically, those are people that work directly for the lighting company. What I would recommend that we staff be allowed to work with the applicant so that whoever they select to perform that verification prior to the lighting use be made acceptable to the commission. It would probably not be a John Paul Garcia, as he's a civil engineer, not a photometric engineer, lighting engineer. But there are a number of them in the state. They don't have to go all the way to Louisiana, where Geosport's located, to do that. If they choose to, that's up to them. But I would just suggest that they work with staff so that we make sure that whoever performs that study is qualified to perform that and put that photometric survey and plan together for the commission.
Okay. And I think that just the root of my question was, I think it would be best if sort of neutral, unbiased party is the person that makes that assessment at the time. And I think what you're saying is that the way that it's written now in the draft is sufficient to ensure that.
I think that's the case. It's as long as that's the commission's understanding, staff can work with the applicant to do that, make sure. Typically, those people that are going to sign and seal those plans, their seal is at stake when they do that, just like a civil engineer's reputation and license is at stake, so that we could make sure that that person's qualified to do that, put that information together. I know that information was important to the commission.
Hey,
Thank you,
Hiram, would it make sense to include language then in the resolution, the motion, that it is selection of a qualified engineer mutually acceptable to both parties?
I think that'd be fine. That'd be great. Yep, that would clarify it.
In terms of hours of operation, I don't recall whether that was something that we discussed when we started deliberating last week. And is that something that we need to discuss and decide on tonight?
There were blanks on the draft resolution because I know that was discussed. I don't recall it. I think I asked Lena to fill in those hours, and I believe that each the ending hour was 10 p.m. for all of them. Whether this is really primarily the outside lighting that we're concerned with, whether it starts before that, I assume that would start at dark, and then go to 10 p.m. But 10 p.m. was the cutoff for any of those blanks that Monday through Sunday. And they did say 7 days a week. So I think that was pretty clear.
Quick question, maybe for Lena, just clarification. The hours of operation for the indoor facility, are those different from what they're currently operating under? Because it seems like there was a clarification that the indoor may operate up until midnight.
The indoor was going to stay open until everybody leaves. Technically, that's where was the assumption. The lights were to be shut off around 10 p.m. or not sure, but there will be some lights going on at that time in operation. But the indoors is definitely different.
Yeah, Alex, I recall where you were going, that they have indoor operation till midnight. And
Yes.
it was anticipated that the outdoor activities, when lights were required, would end before 10. And I think the thinking was, like, say 9, that they would end the activity would end in such a way that the field was cleared and the people were in their cars by 10, so that when the lights go off at 10, everybody's off of that field and the lights aren't required.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. I just was asking for clarification as to whether the indoor facility hours are different from what is they're currently operating under. It's more clarification than anything.
Your question, Alex, and are they asking, is there a request for a change in operating hours?
Yeah, I mean, because it was stated that indoor would be up till midnight, outdoor would be 10 o'clock. I just was wanting to find out whether or not the up to midnight is a deviation from what we understand the operation to be.
The original operation, the original schedule approved operations on the facility, they have been operating at around that time.
Can you say that again?
They have been operating pretty much around those hours, since the lights does not affect much in the outdoors. They've been operating.
Are there hours of operation stated in the current existing approval?
I do not recall seeing that, but that has been the operation in general.
Yeah, I guess my only concern about just plugging times into the draft resolution the way that it's written now is that if we put a limit at 10, that seems to be broadly saying that all of their operations have to end at 10 o'clock, even indoor. So I don't know if maybe we need to bifurcate that and specify indoor activities versus outdoor activities.
I was looking at that as well, Brad, that to me, the way item 5 reads, applicant requests an extension of previously approved hours of operation as follows. And we all know we're considering that 10 p.m. light shut off, right?
Right.
I think we all understand. It sounds like there's really no change. It sounds like there's no change to indoor operation, or no.
I mean, I guess one way to remedy it would be to just change the language of that number 5 to not couch it as an extension, but just as a time limit on outdoor lighting. And just be silent as to the hours of operation as to the rest of the facility.
Would that be okay, Hiram, in your opinion? Because it doesn't seem like there's a concern with start. It's really the turning the lights off at 10.
That's correct. And I think that's exactly right. I think that what was said before was that people would be finished and the lights and out of there or in their cars or whatever, the lights would be off by 10. So I think that's perfectly correct.
So to Brad's point, we could avoid any confusion going forward and essentially rewrite item 5 to just say that they request allowance for the lights to be on till 10? I mean, I would assume right now I would assume, somebody can correct me, there's no prohibition right now if they want to operate till 10 outside. It's just they're not gonna be able to see anything. But it seems like there's no explicit.
Couldn't it just say 4 hours of operation of outdoor activities? Or hours of operation on outdoor activities specifically?
It could, I guess. Then do you get into the question of does that allow them to keep the lights on? Like if they're not playing soccer, could they still keep the lights on if we use language like that? I don't know if the concern is the lighting, maybe it should be specific to that.
I lean
Yeah.
towards Brad's suggestion that we edit 5 to just speak to a lighting stop and don't speak to operation whatsoever.
Okay. Makes sense.
I
Yeah.
think that works.
So you're suggesting the lights must be shut off or could be, be shut off at 10 p.m.?
Correct. And, applicant requests use of field lighting up to 10 p.m. I'm sure, Hiram, you can, if you like that language or not, or even Brad.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
I think that's fine.
Are there any further questions or comments from the commission? Okay. I'm not hearing any. So I guess at this point, Hiram, correct me if I'm wrong, but we just call for a motion if somebody wants to make a motion.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Do we have a motion to?
Wait, I have a quick question. What were we supposed to talk about the bond, or who sets the bond for
That will be a recommendation. We'll ask the engineer for a bond recommendation. Then the town engineer and staff will go over that and then recommend
Okay.
that be approved by the commission. So there's a lot of eyes looking at that before it gets approved. And
Okay.
the form of the bond will also go to town attorney.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, do we have a motion to accept what is the proper topic?
I would say the resolution as modified by the commission's discussion this evening.
Okay, the resolution as modified by the commission's discussion this evening. Do we have a motion?
I so move. Alex.
One from Alex. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Is there any further discussion on the resolution? All right, hearing no requested discussion, we'll vote. All in favor of acceptance of the draft resolution with the edits made this evening, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Is that? Okay, so I think motion passes. Okay. Hiram, Lena, I don't think there's any further discussion. Do we need a motion to adjourn this special meeting?
Yes.
Yes, like normal, sure. Yep.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Brad. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
all.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye-bye.
Good
Feel
night.
better, Nancy.
Thank you.
Mm.